Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. Doing the pre-show live. I knew I had some comments come in, and one of them was asking about the EA Sports video game, which I was going to talk about anyway in a minute, but I want to make sure I don't forget. I had some people ask, if you're a parent, what version of the game do you recommend? And there's really no difference. I'm looking to see if I can actually read what they are. But there were the three versions that come out. So you get the regular game for $70. And then other than that, they have the deluxe edition for $100. And then an MVP bundle for $150. Honestly, if you're just looking for your kid, you have no idea about it. It's really up to what you think as a parent. A lot of the add-ons are just the card collection deal. And I'll be honest, if you read comments about like, oh, there's value in the cards, they reset every year. I don't know about trading them behind people. I'm not like a digital collector. So like for me, just getting the regular game is all you need. So if you don't know, just go with the $70 one. The $70 one still comes with a pack. If you're interested in playing the Ultimate Team, you get to pick one of there's a player for each team. So like you get to pick whoever the star is from your team. Then you also get the cover item. So based on what I've seen, just in terms of ads, I would assume as a Michigan guy, the player that you would select, the alma mater player, would be probably Will Johnson. I think he's in a lot of the ads. He's a cornerback, one of the top guys on the defense. And then the cover athlete, you could get a twofer because Donovan Edwards, the running back's also on the cover. So if you got the base pack, you could pick probably two Michigan guys. I would assume they're different. I don't think it would be Donovan Edwards, and then you get a choice of Donovan Edwards again. But maybe I'm wrong. And then you also get to pick your team's uniform to use as your ultimate team, which is kind of like your online collection team. You collect cards, and then they're random. You can buy packs, which comes with like a random guy, and then you add them to your team. And it's going to help. I've heard that it's going to help NIL, but I'm not really sure. I think the deals are already done. So like if you buy a bunch of NIL packs, I don't think you can buy, like I can't buy 20 Michigan NIL packs and that money would go directly to Michigan. I don't think it works like that. If you're curious on that side. The deluxe edition, you get the game 3 days early. This is the $100 one. You get 4,600 points to buy packs. No idea how many packs that would get you. Then you get an extra pick. I think I'm reading this right. You get everything that's in the regular one, so you get one pick out of 134. Then you get an extra pick, so you could pick two team players. And then you get two of the three cover athletes. And then you get to pick an additional uniform. Unless you just get the one. But they said it stacks. Because if you get the deluxe version, you get Madden and college football. Which honestly, that would probably be the better deal for $150. It'd be $10 more than buying both of them separate. If you're interested in getting that, you get the same like a 99 player for Madden's card collection game and some other like whatever. And then the same thing, you get the points that college football comes with. The pick of players, you also get a Heisman hopeful pick. Or it's a special card pack called Heisman Hopeful. So the extra stuff for college football game, if you're curious, is just going to be the packs. Nothing to do with the game. You still get the full game. It's not like you get an extra franchise mode or anything like that. It's only for the online stuff. And like I said, that online stuff, next year, if a new game comes out and you buy the new one, it doesn't carry over. So is it throwing money away? I think you can still use it. It's been a while since I've even looked at that mode, but it's been around for over like a decade. They do it every year. But had that comment come in. Anything you want to add, Matt? Have you played any of those online card collection type games?
I did when the 14 NCAA came out. I didn't spend additional money on those packs, but I can see, like, if you're going to play on the online format, you might be better off getting some of those extra packs or one of those upgraded versions, just so you have the extra ones at the beginning and you're not having to necessarily spend extra money if you want to buy those extra packs right away. There's different things that you do to earn other packs and things along the way for playing, but you'll come across people that will just go absolutely crazy, and they'll spend an unlimited amount of money to get their team built so high that as you're starting out and you don't have those packs, there are certain games that, like, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get absolutely mauled because their team's all like 99 overall guys.
Yeah, that's where, if you're not in at the beginning, because I think you can kind of grind it out and you get packs for doing special, like, daily logins. At least that's how it worked for baseball or whatever, MLB The Show. I'm assuming they're all the same. That's not an EA Sports game, but it was on Game Pass, so I checked it out. And if you did a daily check-in, you got a point, and, like, whatever, after so many days, you get a pack. I think NHL was the same, and that is an EA game. I did have one other parent ask me, what about the online, like Matt brought up? You do have to pay, depending on what console you pick, because they were saying about how I said that I would recommend the Xbox. I think PlayStation paying for online is cheaper. The reason, like, if you're a parent and you don't really want to keep buying games, if you pay for Xbox Game Pass, you also get access to the Xbox games. So, like, if you pay for their online, you also get access to, like, all of the Halo games. But they own Call of Duty now. There's a rumor that this summer in June, so before that EA Sports comes out, that all the Call of Duties are going to be on there. So if that's the case, that's part of the reason why, yeah, you're paying a little bit more for the Xbox Online, but you're also getting actual real games. PlayStation gets games away for free. That's actually something that I was doing when I first started doing podcasts, was kind of talking about the free games they were giving away, and they were not good. That's why their service is cheaper. So that's kind of what you have to do, like, look at it both ways. Is your kid playing multiple games? I know Call of Duty's big, so just having one subscription, knowing that, hey, I don't have to drop $70 every year for Call of Duty. I think Minecraft is in there. What else is at Xbox own? Gears of War. There's, like, a good mix, especially with the Activision stuff. They own Diablo now. Starfield, I think, was their new game. I don't know what other games kids play. I know Minecraft is a big one, and, like, their other big one was Halo. So those are all kind of included with the Xbox Online. So, like, you don't actually have to pay for Microsoft Game, which is why their business is kind of doing bad. But I have no opinions on that. That's just, if I was giving my opinion, I personally prefer Nintendo games. That's why I said I wish it would come to Nintendo or computer, because then you don't have to pay for online at all. But that's kind of where the things are right now. It's either PlayStation or Xbox. And that's kind of the recap. If you have any other questions, again, please reach out. Hope I did a good job of describing it. Personally, I already have an Xbox, so that's where I'm going to get it. And I'm not going to buy the bonus pack. I'm just going to get the base version. I'm sure you can get, like, a 10% coupon or something around the time that it comes out. And we'll see what happens. I will say that with Game Pass, I think that's the Xbox Online thing. They do usually put EA games on there. So, like, they had just added NHL before the playoff. So if you really wanted to wait for, like, Madden, but when NFL playoffs are going on, they add the new Madden for free every year as part of that. So I haven't bought a Madden in years, because I don't really care. Like, do I need to play Madden this summer? Nah, dog. You can just play the old one. So it is a wonder. I will probably buy the college football game when it comes out, though.
I'm curious to see how different, because I feel like there's been such a heavy pushback that if it's a reskin Madden, that the NCAA community is going to absolutely go ballistic.
Well, when's the last Madden that you got? That you played?
Oh, it's been some years.
You're going to be in for a shock. Because what was the last one? When was Tom Brady on the cover a couple years ago? Even maybe it was at 2022, so 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Everything's been shifting towards like the menus being online, and like just even trying to get onto NHL, because it's been a couple years since I played that. To even find the regular franchise mode, I'm clicking through like 4 menus, trying to get through all the online crap. And then I'm like, you sure you don't want to open a pack of cards, bro? It's like, no, buddy, I just want to start right into franchise mode. So I'm just going to give everyone a heads up. I don't care how different it is from Madden. They say that it's different, but that online stuff, especially because that's all that's in the deluxe pack, is just extra online. It's not even current. What is it? Currency? Gambling stuff? That's what the courts were trying to decide if it was gambling, because you're just gambling to see what Heisman guy you get, right? What if I want Bo Jackson? He won the Heisman. 1 out of 134 odds, buddy. Are the odds the same? It's not like they don't publish them, so you don't know. But I will say that I guarantee that if you're used to logging into the old game, because if you bring up 2014 and the first thing that's in your face is what, play now, that's not going to be the case. I would be shocked if the menu looked anything like that. It's probably going to be, I think even NHL, it was 3 online modes, and then you had to quit that menu, and then you can kind of customize it, but it's hidden. They don't really want you to do that. And you can say, like, in the settings, like, when I log in, I actually just want to go to the Play Now menu or the franchise. I don't want to go to the online. I think the hockey is like World of Chell or something. I'm like, what is this, buddy? Not for me. So just another warning to people that haven't played, because I feel like people are like, yeah, I want to play football, or I want to play college football. I haven't played in a while. And I've had a couple people ask me, they're like, yeah, you play video games. What do you recommend? And I'm like, you're going to be in for a shock. I hope it's good, but if you haven't played for a while, gaming landscapes are way different now.
Yeah, the last Madden I would have played would have been when DK Metcalf was a rookie and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, so that was before the one. I got the one, I think it was when it first came back on PC, because I wanted it for my Steam Deck. I'm pretty sure it has Mahomes and Tom Brady on it. And even that one had a lot of online crap that kind of defeated the purpose. I wanted to just take the Steam Deck, just like the Switch. You can just hit the power button and it will put it into sleep mode, and you can pick your game up. And it's like, bro, we lost the internet connection, buddy. What are you doing? And it's like, I'm not even online. I'm trying to play franchise here. And it's like that kind of stuff that I hope NCAA kind of sorts out. That's the one thing too that Xbox does. Xbox does have that feature. I don't think PlayStation does, unless they added it. But you can do a quick resume, which is awesome. Especially if you're a parent, you could just hold in the Xbox button and power down, and it will save your spot. If you're in the middle of like a pass, you'll just pick right back up where it is. There is a rare chance that it crashes, but it works pretty much just like the Switch. It's awesome. You can have like 3 or 4, maybe 5 games suspended at one time too. So like if you're playing Gears of War, like some shooting game, and you have kids up and you want to play it at night and they're like, I want to play Minecraft, you can just switch between them and it's perfect. You don't have to worry about it. So that's another feature that I like. But that's enough video game stuff. Let's get into sports things. Like I said, I like the mailbag stuff. I know people are excited. We talk a lot of college. That's kind of all I have on the docket today. The main thing that I have coming in is down here in ACC country, there are some, I don't want to say delusional people, but there were some rumors coming around that the ACC is making a push to get Utah to join the conference. I will give this a little bit of a preface here. Utah is kind of being targeted as a replacement for Florida State. I don't know if you've heard this, Matt, but they're pretty much set that Florida State's going to leave. And their idea is that if they can nab some more West Coast teams with Stanford, they want to try to kind of copy the Big Ten and be a national conference that might just make a little bit lesser money. And even the AD came out and was like, or not the AD, the conference commissioner was like saying stuff like, hey, we might not be making as much money, but we're winning. And it's all about results here. Like, we're competing for these NCAA championships. So if Florida State wants to leave, we'll bring in the best schools. So, do you think Utah would be a good replacement for Florida State?
Yeah, I mean they've been ranked recently. They're not. I don't think they're necessarily replacing Florida State, but I think from the ACC standpoint, Florida State's out. They went to court over it. They're done with it. They've been very vocal about the fact that they won out. So why continue to fight that battle? I know like you want to get your money for them leaving or trying to get as much out as far as exit fees, just so that it prevents the inevitable steamroll of a Clemson, a Miami, North Carolina, Virginia from leaving as well. But I think you try to get what money you can, and then you also at the same time you want to fill so that the conference doesn't completely implode. I think you continue to add, knowing that you don't want to end up in a situation like the Pac-12 where it's down to the Pac-2.
See, I'm on the other side where Utah is a glorified G5 program. I know some people are probably going to attack me over that statement, but let's be honest, they were down a lower level even as recent as when Urban Meyer was there, correct? I don't think they joined the Pac-12 until after Urban Meyer had went to Florida.
Yeah.
And so they're a relatively new program. And with that, they're not bringing the same amount of eyeballs as what Florida State brings in. So once again, you're downgrading the conference. And going national, I will say, is the move.
But on the flip side of that, what team would you try to recruit to replace them?
I think they have to just go big. I honestly think they should take kind of what the Big 12 is doing. I think they should just take name programs and try to flip. I think you got to stick with rivalries. Bringing Utah, what rivalries do they have in the ACC? They have none. You can't tell me Stanford. Yeah, Matt, I have it on my calendar. Stanford, Utah, awesome. Like, no one has a game marked on their calendar.
But I feel like you're still in the same situation, though, where, yes, you want to go after bigger fish if you're the ACC, but where are the bigger fish? The SEC already pulled a cluster. The Big Ten pulled a cluster. And I feel like even though they're not on that same level, I feel like the Big 12 has a little bit more stable footing for the time being than the ACC. That a school that would make sense that if you're losing Florida State would be to bring like a UCF in. That you could say you're leaving the Florida market, but you're bringing a Florida market in. But with them just recently going to the Big 12, I don't see them jumping ship for equal to potentially less money.
Well, see, that's where I don't think Utah leaving. It's ACC right now is making less money. Florida State leaves, they're making even less. Bringing in Utah, they're going in with BYU, their biggest rival, into the Big 12. I know they kind of hate them. So, is that hate enough for them to join the ACC based on what? Academic superiority? The only reason they would make that move is to try to become more attractive to the Big Ten. But at this point, just wait and see what happens. Because the Big Ten might not take any more teams. We don't know what's going to happen yet. I would think, my feeling on it is, there's not going to be a Big Two. There might be a Big Two, but there's at least going to be 3 top conferences, a Big 3, if you say. The money might not be the same, but it's not the same right now. The Big Ten paid out, $60 million per team this past year? The SEC only paid out $51 million. And they haven't renegotiated their contract with Texas and Oklahoma. So we don't know what money they're going to get. There were a lot of business people talking about this. I did a lot of research into it. I've been saying it. The Big Ten gap is only going to grow. It's grown to the fact that it was presented to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's looking at a difference of what, 20 million? So the NCAA agreed that these schools have to pay players. So they're going to get a cut of the TV money. Let's say that each of the big time schools, their cuts, I don't know if it's set in stone, but just using Notre Dame as a model since they're independent and I have the numbers crunched from one of those research articles, they're going to go ahead and have to pay or share $20 million a year with the players. So that takes Notre Dame's $17 million from NBC and eliminates it. So the extra that they're getting is basically gone. So now they're down to just getting the ACC. Now, of course, the ACC is even going to be lower than that because they don't have an extra NBC contract to just help pay the players. But that's also going to put Notre Dame then so far behind the Big Ten, where they might only be making half of what the Big Ten's making. So if the Big Ten does get up to $100 million per year, Notre Dame's revenue with the ACC contract and the $17 million from the NBC minus $20 million is like around $47 to $50 million. The Big Ten, that cut from $100 million goes down to $80. They could potentially be almost getting doubled up by schools like Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers. And that's, if it starts at 80, then it's closer with a 60 million to 47, which is what they paid out this past year. But the Big Ten's basically giving their athletes free money based on this big time contract that they have coming that's already basically been negotiated. So adding Florida State into that, you would be insane to pass it up and say, hey, if we have a chance at the Big Ten, we got to get out of here. We're going to be making more after paying the players. After that cut comes out at the Big Ten, you're still making more than what the entire conference makes in the ACC or some of these other conferences. So jumping ship right now, like Utah going to the ACC, I think is a bad move. They're not going to be able to go there. If Notre Dame does jump ship, I don't think they're going to go to the SEC. I don't see, maybe ESPN strikes a deal for them, but I don't think the SEC is going to be happy that they're making that much less money. I think they're going to have to bump the SEC up. I don't know how high they'll be able to get. I don't think they're going to match the Big Ten. I could be wrong. I surely don't think they're going to beat the Big Ten with a regional conference like that. They're not also going to be able to pay Notre Dame on the side, right, to make up the difference as like an extra to keep them independent because ESPN's kind of broke. But maybe I'm wrong. That's why I think we'll see 3 conferences where if the Big Ten does grab Florida State and maybe Clemson and a couple other schools, and they're around like 24 schools, that doesn't leave a lot of pickings for the ACC and the Big 12. If the Big 12 is still making $10 million more than the ACC, then the Big 12 is going to be the third best conference, and I think the ACC teams are going to eventually just be plucked out like the Pac-12, like you brought up. Then it comes down to, do they grab like Washington State or Oregon State? The only move I see ACC making right now, if they're trying to get Utah, they should have already grabbed Washington State and Oregon State. They should have grabbed those two. They should have grabbed UConn. And they should have tried to grab West Virginia for the rivalry factor. And the fact that if you can take a team out of the Big 12, one of the Eastern teams, then there's a chance that, like you brought up, if Florida State leaves, UCF might think about joining the ACC instead. Because one of their travel partners is gone. Who else is even near them in the Big 12? Cincinnati? Like, there's a good chance that Cincinnati would jump to the ACC to battle with Louisville and stuff anyway. So that's my read on it. Some schools are looking to get the hell out of there anyway. So there's going to be a drop. It just comes down to, our team's going to be willing to jump to the ACC, and they're going to change their conference name to the All Coast Conference, like people talk about, which is idiotic, but it's better than having a Big 10 and a Big 12. So honestly, I would be for it. If they can grab Utah, they should start to try to pluck West Virginia next. Because destabilize the Big 12, get ready for teams to leave, but you have to set yourself up as the third best conference. You can't fall to number 4 because I don't think there's going to be enough teams to go around for 4 top conferences. That's my take on it. And I'm with NC State in limbo too. Kind of worries me because like they could be left behind in a conference with like East Carolina or something. Like you never know. So do what they can, but I'm hoping that they can grab schools that I mean, stick with the academic focus if you want, or private school focus, whatever you want. But at this point, you got to grab brand names. You can't settle for like even directional schools that the Big 12 doesn't even want. And grabbing Utah just seems weird to me. They're out on an island with Stanford and Cal, right? Those are the 2 schools out there. Utah, they're not really a travel partner. So why just grab them? It makes no sense. Utah shut it down, I think with good reason. But grab some West teams. See what happens. Make yourself a national conference. Because right now, the SEC isn't. And you can kind of distinguish yourself. But that's my take on it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
That's pretty much all the business stuff I had with it. There was one other thing kind of looping back into the EA Sports video game. So I don't know if the rumors are true. It seems like it was reported. They paid out teams to join the video game based on their finish in the AP poll for the last 10 years. Did you see that article? So, like if you're a tier 1 school, which includes like the top dogs, Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, they paid around like $99,000 for their like team to be in the game. Now, if you're a tier 2, it dropped to like $50,000 or something. And then tier 3 was like even lower, and then like tier 4 even lower. So teams like Iowa made that tier 1 cut ahead of teams like USC and Florida State and Texas, which just made me laugh. But it's a great way to do it by saying like, look, we didn't just pick our favorite teams, guys. We looked at the actual rankings in the AP poll, and that's how Utah actually made the tier 1. So I'm almost wondering if someone in the ACC office was like, we only have Clemson on this list. We got to get someone else. And they're like, Utah's right there for the grab. We'll grab them. Like EA Sports already did the research for us. We'll bring them in, make a tier 1, and that will help save our conference. I also noticed that a lot of people have no idea what different logos are, because people that thought Oklahoma State, which ended up being tier 1, was Oregon State, was off the charts. Insane that most of the comments were like, how the hell is Oregon State a tier 1 school with Oregon? I get that they're beside Oregon in the logo grid. It looks like they went by the actual rankings and not alphabetical. But I'm like, guys, the Beavs are down there. They're like, what did they end up? It's hard to read this like little graphic. I think they were tier 4 or 3 anyway. So they were tier 3. But I'm like, learn the logos, guys. They could have used a cowboy maybe to kind of distinguish it, but I think that's the one on their graphic. So I wonder if EA Sports, if that's going to be the thing going forward. And why did they pick 10 years? Because like that's how long ago the last game was. So next year, do they pay based on final AP ranking? So if you have like a great year, like a Liberty or someone makes that jump, they could be getting tier 1 money. Because like I'm trying to think, what other schools? Liberty was close to the top 10. What were some of the other smaller ones? Tulane? Was it Tulane?
They've been hot lately.
So I wonder, like, what will happen? Do they just change it year by year? Or do you think these things were negotiated out to where it's like a rolling 10-year? where they just keep paying the top guys. And if a team like Iowa, they're like the last team on the top tier, if they fall off and like USC jumps them, is that how it works? I wonder. I'm curious because I didn't even know they would pay schools different. I thought they would just pay them based on like market value or like whatever the merchandise thing was. Because like they do the merchandise value every year. So you know who the top selling schools are. I just figured they negotiated off that. Not like some random AP ranking. But it is funny. It's better for the fans for them to do something new like that. Let's see. I don't think I have any other college stuff. Anything else you have for college?
The only other big thing was that it seems like by the end of the month they're looking to have a ruling on the Florida State ongoing lawsuit with the ACC. And the early indicators, I feel like it could be favorable for Florida State that they're not necessarily penalized like the $500 million.
They're going to have to be penalized probably closer to what Maryland was, $50 million? Especially because they didn't vote for it. And then at the one court, they were like, the ACC tried to say that they voted yes. And they were like, no, we voted no, here's the vote. And then their lawyer's like, oh yeah, that's right. And it's like, what? Are you guys not organized at all? It's almost like they're playing against each other. Or playing against themselves, I mean. Not in the benefit of the conference. But in that regard, UNC is the other key piece to watch. Because they've been kind of open politicking about being broke. And I'm wondering, like, are they going to be Florida State's partner and it's not Clemson? Because if you could pick, what school would you rather have? Out of the three, I think most people would pick Florida State and UNC. Some people might even have UNC as number one, top pick in the conference. But I would say, for football rules, you got to go with Florida State. And then you got to go with UNC based on brand. You get the best of both worlds. You get a basketball school. You get a football school. They're both competitive in other sports, including basketball and football in reverse. But it's like, that's what you got to do. The other big news that came out that I have on here, the UNC hockey team, NC State, and Louisville joined up with Alabama to try to do, they didn't call it the ACC hockey conference, but they're going to jump to Division One if they can get, I think they need at least 2 more teams to make a conference. Division One, they're moving up to Division One in the club league in 2025, which would be next year, I think. And then if they can get the conference established, they're going to make that jump to D1. There's only one conference that plays D1, and that's the Big Ten, other than like random other hockey conferences. So there's no ACC hockey conference. There's no SEC hockey conference. So I wonder if UNC and NC State are both positioning themselves to try to get into the Big Ten with a move like this. Louisville's kind of an oddball, and so is Alabama. But I've been saying before, if you're looking at the receipts, and the Big Ten's already making how much more than your conference, the SEC could very well fall apart next. Because you can't tell me that, like someone said that LSU, Georgia, Bama, they all made 18% less than Rutgers, Indiana, because like the Big Ten splits it even. So every team that everyone makes fun of for being crappy in the Big Ten, they made 18% more than SEC this past year. Alabama in the Rose Bowl? Doesn't matter. What was Rutgers in? I don't even know. Chop Bowl? You got like corn bowls going on, some of those schools. They're just laughing
it up. The Lumber Bowl, they beat Miami.
Miami. That's why Miami's trying to get in there. They're paying for all those recruits. They're like, look, we can outbid Ohio State. Let us in. Let us come with Florida State. But that's my thing. I've been saying, watch the hockey, because Notre Dame also joined the Big Ten in hockey as like a club team. So these schools didn't join the Big Ten in hockey. They went the other route, and we're like, we're going to make our own conference, which is commendable. The other thing would be, what if this ends up being an SEC hockey conference, right? Because I've been saying before, the only way to keep the Big Ten out of the South is if the SEC adds UNC, NC State, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and they just say, we're going to wall it off. We're going to get ahead. We're going to wall it off. Grab Louisville too, mix them in there, and see what happens. Because that could be the other way this goes. Because SEC, I don't think the Big Ten is going to take both UNC and NC State, but I could see the SEC taking both of them to kind of just cut that off and say, no, we don't want you. We don't want the Big Ten in the North Carolina market. We don't want you guys anywhere in the South. So ESPN's going to bite the bullet and create the first super conference of ACC SEC matchup. They already have the TV deal. They could blow it up, Matt. The only part is Florida State's kind of in a lawsuit right now against them. That's the only thing that makes me think that that's more of a fantasy than a possible reality, right? Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it almost seems like it's too good to be true. And to be able to cover some of the pay gaps that Florida State's faced over the last couple of years, like it would make the university so much better to be able to get out, but it's a double-edged sword, because on one hand you want it to be where they're moving into a more competitive conference, but do you have a home? And I think that's the other side of it, that I would like to think that they had their feelers out, or there was some kind of communication that there's interest, that you don't just go in half-cocked and say, because of the playoff snub, we don't care. It doesn't even matter if we have to go independent, because what would really suck is if you push to get out of the ACC and then you don't have that offer from Big Ten or even the SEC for that matter, and now you're stuck without a conference and you're trying to pull some of the independent stuff, and you're just getting left further and further behind with every year that you're not in a conference.
So people are really desperate down here in Raycom land, but let me just throw out an idea that was pitched to me, where you have the SEC and the ACC do an ESPN type merger to form like a 32 team super conference. Some teams get left behind. They kind of pick, like I said, they have in-ground inroads with like NC State, UNC, Louisville, and then like whatever the Magnificent Seven was. I don't even know which teams are all in there. But you could grab like Virginia Tech, Virginia, Florida State, Miami, Georgia Tech, Clemson, just to keep the Big Ten out. And they mix with the SEC, but you do like a relegation system where the payouts are slotted based on academic and athletic performance, which allows them to kind of separate, where it's not just football, but they use like, what's the thing that we always talk about, like the collegiate bowl or whatever that Stanford wins every year. They could kind of just separate it based on that. And then that way ESPN doesn't have to raise the pay rate for everybody. ESPN pays for the $20 million, whatever, for every school as part of the TV contract to pay their players. And then the TV rate comes in under that. So the top guys could make maybe more than the Big Ten. Maybe if the Big Ten's making a flat 80, the top 4 schools in the SEC make 100. And then after that, the next year before, they make what the Big Ten makes, and then it just gets lower and lower after that, to where you're able to kind of pay for some schools that don't bring in the media stuff, like Mississippi State and Mississippi, that Ole Miss, that haven't really competed in the SEC forever, Kentucky's, but they provide in basketball, so maybe they're able to make it up there. But some of those schools, they don't really ever show up on like that ranking of top athletic programs. So it'd be a way to keep like the Alabamas and the Floridas happy, right? Texas happy, because Texas is going to be there. Oklahoma's going to be there. And so that way you have a chance where you're like, you're going to be making mainly Big Ten money or more as long as you're making it. And then it kind of has other teams that are going to be there that might invigorate their fan base to say, hey, we're going to start bringing in more NIL money because we can start making more money if we start doing better. And I get that pitch to me and I'm like, that seems crazy. But some schools might take it. Like if you're looking at a Pitt and you're saying, hey, you could be left behind. But would you rather be in a mega conference SEC with like Virginia Tech and some other schools, Louisville and them, where you're like, we could be making money if we just win, and Pitt wins enough where who knows what the hell that could happen. Missouri's been close. What if Pitt starts winning the SEC a couple times and they start making that higher amount of money? Like that, they have right now. They have no other option to make that. So why wouldn't they go for it? ACC cuts a bunch of clut at the bottom, and they just have one conference to pay, and they just have tiers.
I mean, that's a viable option. I feel like for as hard and fast as Florida State has pushed for it, I just don't see there being a way for them to go back into any kind of deal with ESPN. I mean,
That's where I think that it would come down to ESPN would have to cut out and do it before teams left for the Big Ten. Because like I said, you would only want it if you can keep the Big Ten out of their market. Because you don't want Fox and NBC and them picking up the Florida market. Or heck, any market in the South. You grab Georgia Tech, you get the Atlanta market too. And who knows, grab like a Houston or someone. Then you get some of the Texas market. Houston's one of the biggest cities. They might flourish in the Big Ten. Even though they're kind of just floated around. Who knows? But that's kind of what you have to cut off and try to get ahead of.
But I think when you're looking at the markets and you're looking at some of that, I almost feel like you have kind of a somewhat litmus test for that with what's going on in the UFL, and the numbers there are kind of spotty right now. And they're saying, well, Moose Johnston was just saying like he blames the UFL for their attendance because they're not getting the attendance because of where they have the teams located.
And I've been saying that the whole time. You're better off picking towns that have like a real rivalry for a smaller conference like that are hungry for football. Like they should have picked Pittsburgh and Cleveland. They should have 100% picked them. You already have the Michigan team. Just put them in Detroit. They have a rivalry with Ohio anyway. So if you have a team in Cleveland, right there you get 3 rivalries. Throw one in Baltimore or keep it in DC. And you have 4 football teams that already have rivals that are big enough that can support a minor league football team. But they just scattershot them across the United States like it didn't work. They could have it could have been the same thing in like the SEC land. Just grab some cities down there that have a hatred towards each other and put the other 4 teams down there and then do like a North Big Ten versus South SEC type UFL. They tried to do, didn't the AFL or AAF, one of them, try to just have teams like you had to pick a team like players up that were kind of regional that played college near you to try to kind of create that college atmosphere. I don't think you have to go that far, but having a team that's kind of like consistent, or like even just stealing, like having a team in Pittsburgh with like the Maulers, like didn't they have different colors and stuff? And it's like,
well, they did change them back to the black and gold.
And that's what they should have just immediately did, and then tried to have the other cities kind of match, since you're kind of in partners with NFL, right? Have it match the city colors. Do the DC as the Commanders colors or whatever. Do Cleveland as like the Browns colors, Michigan as the Detroit colors, and Pittsburgh as the Pittsburgh colors. And then people, even if they're not making the connection, subconsciously they're watching a Detroit team that looks like the Lions out there, even if they are the Panthers, right? They don't know. they're just going to call them Detroit or whatever instead of Michigan. Instead, you go with the Michigan moniker, but it doesn't look like the Michigan Wolverines. And if you do that, you're going to alienate the Michigan State fans, which is already, you don't want to do. So go with Detroit, go with the city names, and have it kind of mirror the NFL. It's kind of what I would have done. And like I said, I would have tried to find teams that had regional rivalries anyway. Even in the South, it might be been a little bit harder, and I understand trying to bring in like two Texas. Do a Houston and Dallas. Cowboys and the Texans, like, try to bring that in instead of doing Arlington and whatever. Like, I don't know. I know some teams might get mad that they don't have like a minor league team, especially like the New York teams or whatever. But I really don't think people are going to go to New York just to see a minor league football. And in the past, they haven't. Same with LA. So stick with the smaller football schools is what I would say. But the UFL one, I'm watching because I've been keeping an eye on. Ratings are still decent. But now we have the NHL playoffs wrapping up and the NBA finals about to start right around the same time, which is why I was kind of annoyed at the UFL late start. Their playoffs are going to be lined up with the Stanley Cup and the NBA finals, I think. How is that going to work? I mean, maybe there's openings in the schedule, but that's going to be a key element to kind of keep an eye out for. Especially with the Celtics making it, because they're one of the biggest NBA brands. So having them in the finals again, and then you have no comparable team in the UFL, like up to the New England area. What are they gonna? They're gonna just watch UFL? Like, nah, they could be hyped up about sports, but I really don't think you're gonna get a crossover between the two. Maybe I'm wrong though. It should be the lead-in. Right? If ESPN owns it on ABC, they should have UFL be the lead-in to the NBA playoffs. I don't know if that's the plan or not. I looked, I didn't see anything on it yet. But we'll see. Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
I know we talked about college stuff, I feel like the whole time. The World Series stuff started, and I saw Duke softball made it, even though I said they should have got the regional.
And we weren't, and Florida State wasn't snubbed for baseball. They actually got one of the top 8 slots.
Well, yeah, they were in the ACC championship. I don't think they're going to go ahead and penalize them, right? You're confusing the ACC hatred of Florida State for the NCAA hatred. I don't think they'd really care. In the baseball regard, Nebraska finally won the Big Ten tournament, which is insane because they came in, the baseball tournaments in Nebraska, they were supposed to be one of the Big Ten's best baseball programs, and they've done crap. It's like the only thing Nebraska's done in the Big Ten is won, volleyball? So now, finally, like a decade later, finally paid off for them. They're super excited over there. Like, we're going to get out of Texas' shadow. We're like a sleeping giant here in baseball or whatever. They come in the Big Ten, and they can't even compete. It's like insane, some of these schools. That's why it really has me laughing about the conference realignment stuff. You don't know how well a team's going to do. You got to just grab the big boys, see if they can compete, and then even when they do, like A&M, everyone thought A&M would compete more in the SEC, but it ended up being Missouri has been the better program over the same time. They've played in the SEC championship. A&M's never been close. So, like, what's going to happen with these new alignments? Watch Stanford come in, and what if they start cleaning house in ACC football? It'll be insane. I'll just be laughing. The nerds will have it done. But yeah, slow period, like I said, summer. Anything you want us to talk about, let us know. You have anything for the final bell?
No, I do not. Thank you for the continued support. We want to keep building it.
I'll give a shout out to my boy Nico Collins, who signed a 3-year deal with Texans. I think $24 million a year. It's like over $70 million total, which is funny because Ohio State guys have been saying that Michigan guys don't work out in the NFL. It's how you know that Connor Stiens was the secret sauce. But turns out their guy is throwing to one of our receivers, Nico Collins. So get that money, buddy. Get that money. Make it out there. He could be the best Michigan receiver of all time in the NFL. I don't know if they even know if they have. I mean, what, Mario Manningham? Who else had some standout years? Wasn't Braylon Edwards. He didn't really work out, right? Desmond did win that NFL, Super Bowl MVP, but he was more of a returner, right? I don't think that was more on his receiving acumen.
Yeah.
You have to go way back. So shout out to him. I think that's the only other thing I had. You talking about Florida State baseball, bro. They're selling out all their shirts down there in ACC land. They're hot tickets down here. And where do they even play that tournament? North Carolina, like everything else.
Yeah, probably.
Probably right in Charlotte. Actually, probably right in UNC Stadium. Have to walk by a statue of Michael Jordan to get in. Probably have to hold up the Nike logo and touch it to a Michael Jordan statue, and it opens the door. Or actually, he'd use the Jumpman logo. What am I talking about? Michigan uses Jumpman anyway. They don't even use the swoosh anymore. But like I said, thanks for the support. Any ideas you want us to hit in the summer, let us know, and we will see you next week.